Hi, friends. Welcome to another episode of the Better Events Podcast. I'm Logan Clements, one of your co hosts. And this week, we are talking all about our pre event routines, the things that we do the day before we're on site for an event, maybe even the morning of and while we're on site. We share some of our habits, our tips, our tricks, some of our on site kits that might help you make your pre event process just a little less stressful. And we also talk a little bit about how we might not really have some routines because every event is so different. And yet there might be something there for you that you can add to your pre event process. So enjoy the episode.
Welcome to the Better Events Podcast. Join two event strategists, Logan Clements and Mary Davidson, who believe we can all create, host, and attend better events. In this podcast, you will learn about event strategy and actions that you can use today as an event host, planner, or manager. Hear directly from the people who are creating innovative and inspiring events today and tomorrow, and grow your business along the way. Now, let's get started, and thanks for listening to the Better Events Podcast.
Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another week of the Better Events Podcast. This is Mary Davidson, one of your co-hosts, and I'm joined by Logan Clements, our wonderful other co-host, and we are going to talk to you today about your pre-event routines when you're planning an event. And so we are going to get into the episode shortly, but first we have our conversation starter for today. So, Logan, what do you prefer, small town or big city, and why?
I'm a city gal. I really am. Think I like the walkability of a city. I My first experience after college was in Shanghai, which is a very big city, and I just loved the public transit and just being able to like easily bop around. And while I feel like it's fun to visit small town life, I definitely love that from my apartment that I'm at right now, I'm like 3 blocks from a grocery store, from a gym, from a lot of restaurants, a library, a bookstore. I've got everything I need in a very walkable area. I feel like, Mary, you're going to disagree with me, and I'm excited for that.
Actually, I think my mind has changed. I went to New York City recently. I stayed in Brooklyn and I was like, I'm gonna live here one day. I I loved it. And generally I appreciate like that you can walk 5 minutes and go to like a grocery store or something. Like that feels very empowering to me for some reason. And then when I'm in a city, I genuinely feel healthier because of all of the walking. But yes, I think it's easier with better like public transportation, most certainly. So that kind of city, I think I'll pick. I live in like a middle town, so it's not like small, but it's not big at all either. So I really appreciate this, but I want to like take my current circumstance and stick it in a city. That doesn't exist, but I would love it if it did.
Mary, you'll have to get the house that like inspired Up is in my neighborhood in Seattle. That it is a house, but they did build a high rise like all around it. So there you go, listeners. Let us know. Feel free to message us if you have your preference. Again, I think there's pros and cons to each, but a little bit more why we chose this topic. I love sports, so just like athletes have their special socks they wear or their special shorts or whatever it is, we are going to share some of our secrets for success both pre-event and on site. And Mary, I feel like I've been spending a lot of time on site this year, and not normally this on site this much this part of the year, but here we are. So Mary, it's the day before an event. Talk us through very high level what that looks like for you. What are you prepping, and what are you saving time to do?
Okay. Day before an event. I think the biggest thing is that I just have a hard time learning lessons. If you remember our lessons learned episode, one of my lessons learned was to actually learn lessons. And so it's this fun little inception moment. And so one of the things I keep relearning is that the day before an event, I really need to not schedule things. Yes, there might be an event related thing, like we have a meeting or a check-in or whatever. But like anything that's not related to that event, really need to try to put that on a different day. The day before an event, to me, is crucial to get in the headspace, like try to think through everything, double check all of the things, but then also to start like working down like the checklist and like gathering the supplies and things like that. And so it's not like that truly takes that much time because we've prepped for it before. But if you're running around doing all this other stuff, that makes that day before super crazy. So really high level, it's more just like, gathering all the things and wrapping my brain around it. Logan, what about you? High level, what do you do the day before an event?
To my events right now, the day before I am flying, I'm traveling. So I feel like I'm going to apply this to my 2 days before. Just based on what I've had to do recently. But I like to think of future me as a different person because that helps. There's like a reframe that is I did not invent, that exists out there. But if I think of whatever I can do to save future me some time and some stress, I need to do it. So often for me, that's a lot of run of shows and things. And printing is its own beast, no matter what event I'm at. And so anything I can print the day before or the night before, or get up extra early and do it the morning of, like before I'm on site, that's the better, if I have to get anything ready. But yeah, I'm kind of going through making sure I have all the things I need for the event, making sure I know what I'm wearing just to make one less thing that I have to think about, and just going down that like kind of event checklist of all the things I need. And then I do love my little notebooks that I keep for every event that I work. I organize it by client, and I often will already start a to do list for the next day and have things on there, just the random thoughts that come into my brain on the night before of like, oh, don't forget, I got to remind this person about that, or make sure I double check we actually have this. And actually writing it down just makes me feel good. It gets out of my brain and onto paper. And then I feel better the next day waking up being like, oh, look, I already have, here's what I have to print, like my list of what I have to print or my list of reminders for people. Um, but yes, and then I'm often on a plane. So that's its own level of prep.
I think that's actually a really good call out because a lot of people do travel the day before an event, which to me adds to the stress, but it's all about the planning, right? Super helpful ways to start thinking about high level. What do you do, listeners, the day before your event or the 2 days before as you prep? But what would you say, Logan, are some non-negotiable things that you do before the event? Maybe you already mentioned them, but you're like, no matter what, for me to be successful, this is something that has to happen before the event.
I feel like there's so many different things depending on the client and the event, but something I've already been doing the last couple months that has been really helpful is, that like contact list that people make, or your vendor list or whatever, that gives you all your phone numbers that you're like, great, I have this for reference. I've started being better, and I just didn't do this for an event I did this past weekend and I regretted it. Actually put those people's phone numbers in your phone. Like sit there in the calm of the not being on site yet and write in Mary, parentheses, flower vendor. Or however you need to label these people so that in the heat of the event that you need to search them, you already have their information typed in. Because I promise you, maybe having that printout's helpful, but then like you got to remember where that is, copy and paste their number into your phone, text it, remember that random number you're texting, who that person is, versus if you already have it and they're like, hey, can you contact Dale with lights? It's like, I already got Dale on my phone. Great. Hey, Dale, it's Logan. Or if you have any like special guests or anybody, like for me, I'm thinking of my sports. So it's like my anthem singer, anyone I can text the day before of like, hey, I'm Logan. I'll be your point of contact. Just checking in ahead of tomorrow. Getting your contact information exchanged just makes the day of so much less stressful, because you're not then waiting in that moment when you're under a time crunch to try to get a hold of someone. So that's my little thing that I've started doing whenever I'm working with new people. I try to sit down and actually do that. That's a very nice plane activity, or waiting on a plane activity, because you don't need service for it, just to go through and put people in your phone.
I love it. Great tip for sure. I would say for my non-negotiables, no matter what the event is, I'll always create some type of document for myself that's like a run of show just for myself. My own role, like what are the things that I need to get done? Sometimes I call it a production timeline. It depends the event. For our clients, we'll always create this. And I think it's like for me to be able to execute at an event, I have to have this document. So if it's not provided to me in some way or another, if I'm freelancing, I will still create my own. And that's an example of an event I have coming up. They have a runner show, they have all these things, but really I'm like, me, Mary, my call time is this. I need to be here at this, but I can't forget about this. Like it's me related stuff. And to have that on one space, like I have to have that written down, something I can check off throughout the day. That is what is going to help me be successful. And I know that. So that is 100% a non-negotiable thing that I have to have ready to go before the event. The other thing is that I have to pack my car. Now you'll hear from Logan and I, we're kind of doing different events in some cases because I'm always packing my car for events. My husband and I have well, I don't know if it's a joke. It's like I used to pack it last minute all the time, and it would turn into this moment of chaos where I'm like running late. I gotta change. I gotta get my stuff. I need my snacks. Oh, will you help me? I gotta grab this box. And all of a sudden it becomes a him problem too because I have to get help. And so now I'm like, okay, the night before an event, I'm all packed. except for maybe like one sheet I got to print in the morning, but I have like a sticky note that reminds me what I need to do for that, you know? So that has become a non-negotiable because I don't want to wrap other people into my drama of an event. And it's really helped me not be so stressed out.
I love that. That's like a very self-aware thing you've learned. You can take some of the chaos out of the event day and pack your car. Yeah, for me it's mainly I think knowing the type of the event, knowing what I need to bring with myself, like bring for me. Right now I'm traveling so much. I honestly don't have to read. I'm kind of on autopilot for like doing laundry, pack, repack. Here's what I need. But I do love post-it notes. I've got a whole stack of colorful ones for the random things. Mary and I are traveling this week together that I have a post-it note somewhere here with some random bullets. I got to remember to grab something specifically for that event. I do have a travel like bin in my office with things that I always like to travel with. I'm finding having a travel blanket that I can use on the plane. And I've actually liked using it even in my hotel room to make it feel a little more cozy. I've talked about my home kit that I have here that have just some cozy accoutrements for my hotel room to make it feel a little less, my little home away from home. And so those are things I'm always packing. And then, I mean, for the events I'm doing, it's like you've heard me talk about it, but my clipboard that I can store things in, ample amounts of pens, USB or different drives that I can put files on if I need them. And then my handy dandy backpack that is on our gift guide list that I love, my one shoulder backpack. I can clip comms to it, I can store things in it. Those are coming with me to almost every event that I work. And Mary, the most crucial piece is my stapler. And I broke it at an event 2 weeks ago. And so for the last 2 weeks, I have been staplerless and having to rely on other people for a stapler, which listeners, you may laugh at me, but it is such a small thing. When you're printing run of shows and things that need to be stapled, you'll be surprised how hard it is to find a stapler and just how much time it wastes like on that little detail that I started bringing one with me. So I never had to ask for one. I Amazoned one to my house because I'm only home for a day. And so I have now my stapler will rejoin me on the road, a new one. The other one was probably one I picked up at Target or some random one that it served me well, like 4 years of hardcore stapling, but it finally jammed and there was no saving it.
I love that. The coveted stapler. For me, it's scissors. Yeah, similar things. As you're talking about the supplies, Logan, do you have like a checklist or a system for packing and bringing all these things? Or like, how do you stay organized and decide what each event needs?
I feel like I've done it so much right now. It's our things are already kind of together in the same spot. So I don't really have to organize. I think my one system is I like to use this one backpack that I take to events. And it's nice because it has a lot of different pockets in it. And I always put like one of the pockets, I always put my hotel room key in it. And so I'm never looking for where my hotel room key is because it's always in this one pocket. And this other pocket always has my extra charging cables. Like it just always is in there. And certain things that are, I kind of always have in the same place. And so that helps me stay organized. I've also found if I need to bring any like credential or something on site, like the night before, I put it inside that clipboard that I have versus trying to remember the day before. So I just kind of everything has its place is kind of what I go for. And then my favorite thing that I can't remember if I've talked about it here, but I have what I call my Mary Poppins bag, the little bag that says "I wish I was filled with ramen" that I picked up at a market once, and I've just added to it. It used to just be like pens and dongles and random things. Now I've taken things out of those like overnight travel kits you get on airplanes. Like I got to give my client last weekend earplugs from it because they're like single wrapped and clean and stuff. And she was like, "Does anyone have?" We had a drum line performing, and she's like, "Does anyone have earplugs?" And I was like, "I do," and got to go. I was like, "My random bag of things." I think I have a little toothbrush in there again, unused, and a little toothpaste from the airplane. I think I put chocolate in there because you never know when you need chocolate. Uh, yeah, all kinds of random stuff that is in this little pouch that I've learned and tried to add to is just like, you never know what you're going to need. So that's my mini version. And I feel like, Mary, you probably have a more robust version for some of the events you do. But what do you do, your system for packing and bringing supplies?
I love everything that you said. It's so funny because it's definitely like an event planner, producer, nerd moment to feel like so good about someone needing a random supply that you brought. I know that
So
feeling.
good.
Feels
So
so
good.
good. You're like, yes, I'm here to provide value and be prepared. And I did. I brought an extra pair of scissors. Like it's the funniest feeling. But it's so true. Yeah. We have a supplies list for every event and it's always different based on the different like kinds of events and like what the client has versus like what a caterer is bringing or what are we bringing. And so I always print that out. It's part of my binder I bring on site. and I will use it to pack and then to bring stuff to the event and then to pack everything up at the end of the night so we remember who is responsible for what. So I love using a good old supplies list, super helpful. It just says like what the item is, how many there are, where it's located, and like who's responsible for it or something like that. And so I find that to be really helpful. Yeah, what Logan said, we always have an event box that we'll bring. It's not very big. I mean, it's like 12 inches by 12 inches or something. It's not huge. But we've really narrowed it down. And I made a second one for this year for my team. We've always been living off one. And I'm like, we need another one because there's just the multiple events going on at one time now, which is exciting. But that, as I was doing a recon at the end of the year and just figuring out like what's broken in here, what do I need to replenish, I ended up like relabeling all the things because I'm tired of getting my scissors stolen and stuff like that. Not stolen, I don't think anyone intentionally takes the scissors, but they always get misplaced. So I just kind of cleaned up that box. It also has some emergency snacks in there like Logan said. We have a first aid kit and just other things like that. I'm so surprised how many times people ask for bandages, and I'm like, "Yes, I have one," and that feels responsible. So yes, I'm so glad. Yep, I agree with what you said, and if you don't have a checklist, even if you've done this for, a million years, I would definitely encourage it because I don't know about you, but like your brain has so much to think about for an event, and if you could just take one little thing off of it and maybe reduce some stress by writing it down and having a recurring list, why not? That's what I say.
And I mean, again, you might not be a pouch person like me. I like things in a container of some form or like Mary's box that like you're not unpacking and having to remember to repack. It's like it just lives. Everything I need lives in here, and that just makes it easier for getting up and going. So, Mary, how do you balance personal prep like sleep or food, mindset, those things outside of what we were just talking about, with the event logistics ahead of being on site?
Yeah, well, in an ideal world, I'm not rushing the night before an event. Things are looking good. And so I would love to save time for a bath because I just know that is something that calms me down, significantly. So I think it is important to kind of for me to get into the mindset of an event. I think I've shared before that one of the like pre-event, I guess this is a routine, but it may happen like, I don't know, just the week of an event, giving my brain some time just to think, not listen to anything. I might just be driving, but I'm kind of thinking about this event. I always remember or think of something that is important that I wouldn't have thought of before. It's like giving your brain space just to like go crazy with this one event. And or maybe it's like, your shower thoughts, like things like that. They just pop in your head. And so that's been helpful, I think, to have honestly, like if you can afford to give yourself a moment of quiet before an event, that's something I would definitely advocate for. It really helps me. And if it can be the night before, I think, hey, that's great, but maybe it can't always. We're going to talk maybe a little bit about this later, but if you can't, at least do this post event, like give yourself a little minute or something as part of your routine. Logan, what about you? How do you balance your personal prep?
Think if I had an auditor in my life right now on my personal outside of work prep, they would tell me I'm doing pretty bad. Not gonna lie, I'm not doing the rest before or after. I'm very much in the throes of a peak season, an unexpected peak season. I think so. All of that list, we put out there: sleep, food, and mindset. I think the one I'm trying to focus on is sleep, and more that right now I'm in such a busy season with work. I am honestly with like the night before, I'm either reviewing the next day's event stuff to make sure I'm there, or I'm using the quiet hours of the evening to keep things moving for my other events that are still coming up because, I don't often have the luxury of just focusing on one event 100% of the time, all the time. And so, um, I'm trying to be better of just when I'm ready to go to bed and not scroll my phone and all of a sudden look up and I've wasted 45 minutes. That would have been a very valuable sleep period. So I've been really focusing on sleep. And then again, I've been traveling a lot for my events. And a takeaway I had from last year was that I actually, while working out makes you tired, it actually energizes me. And so even if I know I'm going to have a busy on site day, I will try to get up and work out and move my body before the day goes and then, go back, shower, and then get my day going just because I feel like it wakes my brain up, it wakes my body up. I feel good. I feel like I did something for me before I'm about to do a bunch of things for other people. So that is probably the two places that I'm been pretty good. Like I just came back from a 4-day trip and I went to the gym I think 3 of the mornings. And the only day I didn't go because we were up late the night before, and then I had a 16-hour day on site, and I was like, let's not add to any tiredness that that I don't need for that 16-hour day. But yes, so those are what I'm focusing on.
I love that. I think that's super important. I just was on site as well, like traveling, and I worked out a couple times, and I also was very proud of myself. So do what you can, but I think it's definitely a win. Okay, so shifting to on site a little bit more, Logan, do you have any routines that you do on site? Maybe there's like a typical order in which you do things, or maybe you always stop by and grab coffee or something before your event. What does that look like for you?
Wow. Mary, I'm like a bad answer to all these questions because it's like, it depends. Like I try to find, I think I make like micro routines for myself. So, like, again, this last event, I worked out, and the person I was carpooling with, we had a rental car. Both of us were like, let's get Starbucks to start the day because our lunch, once we were on site, was always kind of a little bit of a chaotic thing. Sometimes we got it, sometimes we didn't just because we were busy. So we're like, let's stop for coffee and some like a treat and then get there. So that's usually part of the routine. Um and like I said, I guess earlier, like trying to do the movement for me, again, that's like moving my body just makes me feel good with having a routine there. But work specific, I talked about printing the day before. If you can't print the day before, that is the first thing I do. If I have to print anything on site, run a show, scripts, whatever it is, I will probably get there an hour before I actually have to get there just to print because it is the most stressful part. Because to me, it feels like such a waste of my time because it just takes time. Like this event, I've been working this with a volleyball client, and I have a team of 15, and they each need to run a show that's a 10-page run a show. Okay, that's 150 pages that we have to print. And while printers can be quick, like that still takes time. So that's something that I will always do first thing that I have to do, and anything else I can get done before the chaos of other people arriving. That's just a me thing. I like to get places early and be settled so that when other people are rolling in, I'm already in, the good headspace that I need to be in. And then if there's bacon at breakfast, I do love event bacon because life's too short not to have the bacon.
We love event bacon. Is there like a t-shirt about that? Because there really should be.
There's definitely someone has made merch. There has
Yeah.
to be merch out there for that.
Yeah, absolutely. I love what you said. Yeah, I would say our on-site routines. Well, for me specifically, as I have admitted many times, and Logan knows this well, like very much about myself, I struggle with time management. And so if I am not running late, my stress level is significantly different. And so if I could just do myself that favor and run on time, that's the first on-site routine is like try to be on time. I should say this is an aspirational routine. So then I can get there, it's not as like coming in hot. It's more like, hi, how's everybody doing? So I aspire to be more like that moving forward. But with that being said, I love to have a check-in. I love to check in with the client first, and just make sure they know that we're here. And then really like proactively starting to look at what needs to be done. Like I've created this list like before the event, but to me, right when you get there, there is that rush feeling. It's like a lot of pressure. We got to get stuff started now. We got to be proactive, blah blah blah. And so, having that check in like first thing, I think is really helpful. I also love to have like a radio or a comms check in, right? Because as soon as you can, get on comms and start executing things together, it's going to be more efficient. And so, I love a good comms check in near the beginning, and the rest is probably event specific, depending on what it is. But those are some of the things for me. But as we're thinking through other habits, Logan, are there any small habits that help you stay focused and calm throughout the event?
I wish I had a better answer to this, Mary. This is a good question. I'm coming at this listeners from a very like unzen place. Not to think I'm like chaotic on site, but it's just been a whirlwind of events. I feel like.
Logan is
Um,
not chaotic on site. I can advocate for her in this
Thank you.
moment.
Yeah, I'm a calm person, but yes, I think I do get very like we just need to, things have to get done. This is what we're doing. I think it's just remembering again, I said my backpack's something that's helpful for me because I'm really bad at drinking water when I'm on site. And so I've tried to keep a bottle of water in that bag on me because I'm more likely to drink water if it's literally attached to my person. And so some folks who I work with, I've been working with a lot the last couple months. When I see them on site, they're like, Logan, have you had water? And I try to do that for my team too, of doing like kind of a wellness check on them. We've had some long event days of just going around like, does anyone need a snack? Anyone need a water? Can I get someone a cookie? Like, just trying to make sure, again, we're all focused on what we're doing and executing on site, but making sure we take that breath to just remember. I feel like once I'm in it, I don't feel like I have a good habit to like not to get out of it right now. But I do also think I wear very comfy shoes. That is almost a non I was talking about that with someone and they were like, "Well, what if they made you wear other shoes?" And I was like, "I think I have the privilege now of working only events that will allow me to wear the shoes that I want to wear." And that's listeners, I found out I had arthritis in and I still do in one of my feet. I got that diagnosed like 2 years ago now at this point, and that doctor was like, "Well, one, we can give you a steroid shot. Two, though, you should change your shoes." And so I have been a lot more cognizant. You will not see me wearing a ballet flat at an event. I've got some orthotics and some sneakers, and I've got a slicker pair of sneakers that look a little fancier. But I almost every event that I work, and I will actually say every event I work, does not care what happens on my feet. And I'm walking anywhere from 12 to 25,000 steps a day when I'm on site. And so I'm going to be comfy, or I'm show calling and I'm sitting behind a table and you're not even going to see my feet anyway. So that's probably the most self-care that I'm doing is I wear comfy shoes and I wear multiple. So I alternate if I'm walking multiple days in a row. I don't wear the same shoes 2 days in a row just to mix it up for my feet.
This is the real deal. We're talking about orthotics. That's how you know
Real fun
we did
stuff,
this.
listeners.
I've shared this before, but I have this app on my phone. So mindset is really important to me, which you can probably tell from some of the ways I'm answering this question. But not that it's not important to you, Logan. Let me just say that right now. But there's this app I have that I put on my Apple Watch that I really love. It's called I Am, and it's like a positive affirmations that scroll throughout the day. And so I purposely put it on that like uh face of my watch so that I'm randomly just like, working an event and I look down and it says something like, "You are wonderful." And I'm like, "Thank you." Yes, I am. Let's do this event, like it's just silly. But it really helps me in those moments, especially when it's hard, right? So I love those little reminders on my watch. So that's kind of a habit, if you will, that I've started to look at those more, and I really like that throughout the day.
You did that as a bonus tip, Mary, and I will say
Yeah.
I have it on. It's not on my watch face or anywhere like that, but it is a push notification, and I think I get them 5 times a day.
Yeah,
Sometimes they feel relevant, sometimes I'm just like, it just makes you smile, but yes, they are positive affirmations that I think you can cater towards, like, your goals or not, like, super
yeah,
specific, but, like, areas of your life you wanna be reminded of, and I do like it. It is like a little mindfulness break. I did download and pay for the Calm app, and I do get notifications every day to be like, "Take your moment of calm." I
I
will
love
admit,
that.
I have not taken my moment of calm.
Of
I'm
course.
one step closer to doing my moment of calm.
There you go.
I have the
Progress.
tools, I just need to use them.
Yes. Easier said than done sometimes, but
Yeah.
I think there's lots of different things that there's not one routine that works for everybody. So listeners, hopefully you can be thinking of your pre-event routines that will help set you up for success. But before we end, Logan, is there anything else that you want to share, or is there anything that you wish you'd started doing regarding your routine earlier in your career?
I think that reframe of thinking about future me as another person and anything I can do, feel like early on there I would make some decisions being like, "We'll have time tomorrow." And then not realizing that I feel like on the day before an event, time, like, slows down a bit. And then on the day of the event, time's at, like, 2x speed. It's going, like, double. All of a sudden, you look down, you're like, "How did 2 hours go by?" And we still have all this other stuff to do. I think I wish I had that awareness and took more time the day before or the night before of like, "Should we just move that now?" And I'll be like, "No, we'll do it when we get back in the morning." Well, when we get back in the morning, there's, like, 4 other things have popped up, and it would have been good if we just moved that thing now. So, um, that's something I constantly challenge myself to remember whatever I can do today to help out tomorrow me, especially if that tomorrow is an on-site day, is going to be, time well spent. So, Mary, how about you? What's one thing you wish you had started doing earlier in your career?
I would just say to be proactive. I think that we live as event planners and producers in a state of chaos. And we also have one of the most stressful jobs, as surveys say. And so, frankly, I think a lot of us do that to ourselves. In some cases, yes, the job is stressful, don't get me wrong. But I think the proactiveness is something that I really encourage like myself to do. I wish I could have done it a little bit more sooner. And yes, I'm saying all this with sometimes it's harder than other times because you can only be so proactive when you're waiting on other people for things, but just do what you can to not live in a constant state of chaos. Make your life less stressful. There you go.
That's a great one. I hopefully you've learned a thing or two about your on-site process. Maybe you just realize you need a moment of zen like Mary and I think we do. But yeah, Mary, before we wrap this episode, you have our bonus tip this week.
I do. Okay, this bonus tip is kind of funny, but it's been top of mind for me. Manifest your bucket list. I was talking to a friend when I was in New York City, and she doesn't work in the industry, but she works like adjacent to the event industry. And so we knew like similar words and like jargon and things like that. And then all of a sudden she was like, wait a minute, we hire people for our events. Wait a minute, maybe I can connect you with the team. And I never would have thought about this sort of thing, but I have a dream to do a certain kind of event in New York City, and she has a connection to that event. And so that is why manifesting your bucket list, whether for events or just life, it could be a good thing for you. So that is our bonus tip for today.
Manifest and speak it out loud. We love it. Thank you, Mary. That brings us to the end of this week's episode. You can follow us on Instagram, Facebook, and LinkedIn at Better Events Pod. You can send us an email at bettereventspod@gmail.com. You can always connect with us on LinkedIn directly as well. Just let us know you heard about us from the podcast. We love hearing and connecting with you. And if you want even more Better Events content, you can join our paid private community on Substack. So visit the show notes to find out more about that. And as always, we thank you for listening, and we'll be back in your feeds again next Wednesday.